Are you ready? Lost in His Own Music podcast presents
Video content. Lost in His Own Museum, episode 9.
We're on to episode 9.
So today we're going to talk about the Oscars a bit, and we're going to talk about Parasite as well, which we both watched quite recently. Me for the first time.
And me for about the 6th or 7th.
Yeah. I have been meaning to watch it again since, just for recording the podcast. We have been really busy. Sorry, we haven't been around for a while because we've both got 2 bands on the go. We've got a few gigs coming up, so we've been rehearsing like mad. And yeah, everything's just been a bit crazy,
it's just been absolutely mental. You beat me to it on that one, Phil. Yeah, so we both play in the same 2 bands, and one of the bands leaving over tomorrow is quite sort of technically complicated in terms of what we're doing, sort of like intricate vocal harmonies and things like that. And it's coming together really well. But we've also got 2 fantastic musicians in the band with us that have never been in bands before. Yeah. So it's sort of like been the whole sort of like, right, okay, we need to pull a full 2-hour show out of thin air.
Yeah.
So literally any free time where we've not been working has been consumed by that. So apologies, but there will be no further delays to the schedule. We will be back with our celebratory 10th episode, which is going to be our based on where our title comes from.
Yep.
But more on that at the end of this episode. So yeah, Phil, you were saying we're talking about 2019's Best Picture winner and a whole host of other awards, Parasite.
Parasite was amazing. I really enjoyed it. I had no idea what to expect from it. I didn't know anything about the plot. For some reason, I'd heard a totally different plot synopsis from somewhere else, and assumed something completely different. So I just had no clue when I went into it, and I'm really glad I did that.
Yeah, do you know, I'd not assumed anything about the plot. I didn't really have any ideas as to what it was going into it. But when I went in, sort of when it won the awards, I was just sort of like indifferent. I was like, oh yeah, good for them, and you know, it's nice to see a foreign film winning it for a change, and it sort of you know, it does make a real big difference to the usual sort of like Oscar bait type films, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I
figured it must have just been packed with Oscar bait, and that's how it won. I had no idea that it was.
You were thinking it was going to be like a sick kid or something, weren't you?
Well, I thought it was, for some reason. I don't know where I got this from. I thought that the synopsis of Parasite was about was like an ironic title, and it was about a family with like a kid who's like a drug addict who's always stealing money from him or something like that. And I've no idea why. I don't know where I got that from, but so when we watched it and found out what it was really about, and which didn't even, I had no idea what was going on until about halfway through. And I love that about a movie, you know, about watching a film. I love a good.
You're sort of like, where is this going?
Yeah, I love really confusing films. You know, things that I really have to think about.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I do obviously being a film nut. I'll watch anything once, and I do quite enjoy some foreign language films. That, you know, it's not my biggest genre, you know, or my biggest sort of taste or love in film. But I do enjoy them, and so I did sort of go into this one cautiously because it was, like I say, one of them where when it won the awards, I was like, oh, I'll check that out at some point. And then, like, as you know, I've got a YouTube channel, and you know, it literally blew up in the community, this film, and I'm like, right, I need to check this out. And I suppose it's, you know, word of mouth and almost a bit of peer pressure, really. But
it's definitely peer pressure for me.
Yeah,
I'm really glad I watched it.
Phil, you have to watch this film.
You've been telling me for ages about it, like, and so yeah, we finally got around to it. And I'm not usually a huge fan of foreign language movies. I'd like to learn the language that it's in. Like if I watch something in Spanish, for example, I've got just about enough knowledge of Spanish in what I hear. Like, I can't speak it, but I've got just about enough knowledge in what I hear, to be able to interpret most of what's going on without subtitles.
Yeah.
And it's like with Korean, I have no idea. So, but for subtitles, I find can really like take you out of the experience sometimes.
I was just gonna say exactly that. Subtitles can sometimes, I think, for me at least, make or break a viewing experience.
Yeah.
Because if you sort of if it's too involved what they're saying and you're glued to the bottom of the screen, are you missing visual cues and clues? But for the first time I watched this in 2019, I was just absolutely sucked in and just enthralled by it within about 10 minutes.
You forget the subtitles are there.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, you forget that the subtitles are there. But also, to the point you were just making about Spanish, obviously I don't speak a word of Korean at all and have absolutely no idea if the subtitles were there, what they were saying. But I thought that the acting was so fantastic in it that it transcended language.
It does seem to. There's a lot of physical acting in it. There's a lot of very active...
like performances,
yeah.
And yeah, like I think the way everybody sort of portrays themselves, they're almost like sort of stereotype characters, aren't they? In a way,
yeah.
Sort of like the housekeeper. She's all very sort of like typical sort of like nanny from 101 Dalmatians type sort of. Ooh, hello dear. Mrs. Doubtfire type.
And then you've
thing
got crazy art teacher and
exactly. The daughter playing the crazy art teacher, and then the dad of the family, and he's like the business CEO, and he's a bit sort of like his wife's only with him for his money, and she's a bit of a trophy wife, and that's sort of like there's implications there that there's maybe not so much love lost between them, which later is contradicted because they do share some intimate moments, don't they? But
I do quite like the stereotyping thing amongst the family, though. Because obviously, like just as a really quick plot synopsis of the movie, it's about a quite a poor family in South Korea who sort of invade another household, this rich household, and one by one they become integrated with their family. Is like they're teaching their kids languages, and the dad becomes the driver, the mum becomes the housekeeper,
and it's all great, isn't it? Because it's sort of like we sort of meet because it's the Park family are the rich family, and then the Kim family are the poor family, and we start off the beginning of the film, and the Kim family they're living like in a really grotty basement apartment, aren't they, beneath like a shop, and there's a drunk outside that you straight away sort of like he's regularly going for a pee through the window and stuff like that, and they're regularly having to chase him off, and that this is all like in the establishing shots of the film, and you can tell straight away that this family are sort of not con artists in the sense of that they necessarily want to go out of the way to hurt anybody, but they're just doing what they need to do to survive.
Yeah.
And like the bit at the beginning where they sort of like they're doing the folding boxes for a takeaway company, like pizza boxes and things, and like the dad is doing it meticulously, but he's doing it too slow. The son and daughter are doing it fine, and the mum's just making an absolute cobblers of it. And so it's like the son's like saying, "Dad, you're not getting through enough," and "Mum, what on earth are you doing?" And then when the boss turns up to collect him, and you just get that little insight with the back and forth that they have, because she's all ready for firing him and not paying him. And then the son sort of with his quick wit sort of says, nah, we'll take a pay cut, don't you worry. And, and then he sort of plays what she's just said back on her, doesn't he? And sort of like, you're going to need us going forward. And it's sort of like, it sets the scene, doesn't it?
I like that it gives you an insight into like a different kind of poverty that you don't really, like, as kind of we in the UK don't really understand it so it's really interesting to see that, but to see how like intelligence and wit can overcome that, and these people can still figure out their way through life. See, the thing is, well, I love the stereotypes of like the housekeeper and the driver, and because they are obvious, especially the daughter as the art teacher, is it because she's like
really sort of quirky and zany and out there, isn't she?
But at the same time, psychotic, like a little bit mad.
Brilliant, yeah.
So I feel like that really helps to push the plot forward, because that's how this family sees these vocations, and that's how they figured out, like through TV stereotypes or whatever else, how they figured out how to portray that to get in good with the family, because obviously none of them know anything about any of this.
No, they're just completely blagging it, and it's just they're only one move ahead of the actual family. You know, they're constantly making it, but it's brilliant the way that it's all set up, because it gets set up innocently enough. Because a family friend of the Kim family, the poor family, comes to see them and takes the son out for a drink and says, "I'm moving away to study. I've got this part-time job teaching English as a second language to the daughter of this really rich family, and basically I want you to take over my role, because the family friend fancies the daughter, doesn't he?"
Yeah, so he wants to make sure she's still like on the market when it gets back.
Yeah, exactly. So he's like, well, if I send you in with my recommendation that you're a good teacher, and then you promise me that you won't make the moves on her.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit creepy, because those lads must have been about 20 and she can't have been 14, 15.
It is very creepy. I think part of the thing of the story was like, I can't hit on her because she's not old enough yet, but she will be by the time I get home. So like, you need to make sure that when she sort of comes of age, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is it's a bit, I don't know if that's just a Korean thing or like.
I honestly don't know, and it's probably not a rabbit hole to dive down. that one can get lost in the museum.
Yeah. But it's the detail though. It's such a meticulously detailed film, and obviously, you know, we're not even at the sort of plot twist.
No.
Yeah, really.
That's good. Yeah, we'll get to that though.
Yeah.
I think this film deserves its due course that we talk about it. You know, like so obviously. The son goes to interview for the rich family, the Park family.
Completely blags it, which is amazing.
He absolutely just pulls it.
Barely speaks
out.
a word of English, and he's supposed to be teaching her English.
Yeah, he just pulls it out of his arse. But as well, we get an insight as to how sort of basically creative and clever the daughter is as well, because she's in an internet cafe, because they can't even afford a computer at home. That's another thing, isn't it, at the beginning of the film?
They've got like one smartphone between them, and they can only get a signal in like one little bit
in
of
the corner
the
of the bathroom, because they're piggybacking onto
so trying
the
to
shop upstairs is Wi-Fi or something.
They're waiting like 4 hours for a WhatsApp message and stuff. yeah, it's great.
But yeah, so in an internet cafe, the daughter's there printing off like Harvard and MIT and Oxford qualifications and stuff that this lad who he's taking over from has, and it's just like, bloody hell. And then even the dad's like, you could have a career in forgery if they did a master's in that. This is fantastic. But the son's got this real sort of cheeky attitude about him, hasn't he? Like, he's like, no, we're not forging this, we're not stealing it, I'm just giving myself a leg up. One day that document will be real. And that's a theme that sort of like, he has got the best of intentions, but he's going about it in the worst of ways.
Yeah, I think it's the issue of poverty, isn't it? Because it's like, look, we can't afford to do any of this, so we need the help in that. You know, we need to blag our way through so that we can do this for real. You know, it's like the whole Peaky Blinders thing about, like, you know, we need to have these illegal gambling operations because that's the only thing that's gonna set us up to be able to afford to do it legally. And yeah, I like that. And but they're so matter of fact about it as well. You know, it's like it's nothing just to print off a fake resume from, you know, like
prestigious schools, and it's just absolutely, like you say, he goes and he blags the interview, and I think a lot of the blagging comes from the fact that the mum of the Park family, Mrs. Park, she is very gullible, very naive,
not very bright.
Not very bright. I can't remember which character says that about, but somebody gives it as a bit of exposition, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it's the family friend, and he's like, you know, lovely, but not.
It's not like you need the exposition because it becomes very obvious very quickly.
But like, I think it's important that they infiltrate through her. Yeah, because obviously the husband trusts his wife. So if she's saying they're okay, then they're okay with the husband. But if they'd have gone in with the husband, I don't. Yeah. Anyway,
so it turns out that they've already got the household staff. You know, they've already got a driver. They've already got a housekeeper, and
they've just recently lost an art tutor because the young son Da Song, he is basically he's just really full of energy, isn't he? And
really hyperactive.
Just really hyper. There's the word I was looking for. Hyperactive. And they've not been able. They want him to channel all this energy into art because he likes painting, and they've not been able to find anybody that can keep up with him, and he keeps
drawing pictures of this The
sort of
creepy
like ghost,
the creepy man.
Yeah, the creepy man.
Which is that's definitely a Chekhov's gun.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
It's one of the finest Chekhov's guns I've ever seen in my life in a film.
It was
incredible. It's one of those that sort of becomes obvious by the time you figure the plot twist out, but still, it's like
I was going to say
cool.
As soon as the plot twist sort of is revealed at sort of
you
like
start
maybe
thinking
the
about
2/3 point, you put all the pieces together, but then it's just the majesty of watching it all unfold. Because then you're like, right, okay, we did not see that coming at all. You know, how did we get to... And folks, do you know what? Whilst we've not talked in much level of spoilers at the moment, everything we've talked about now, you'd find in a synopsis or the trailer. I'm going to put a big dirty spoiler warning right here and now. If you do not want to know anything more about the third act of Parasite, here's the point where you jump off and you come back to us when you've watched it.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
But
so yeah, they've got these. They've already got this household staff, and they sort of, by these really clever, nefarious means, they start to replace them.
Yeah. So the daughter gets brought in as the art tutor, and again she just pulls a load of nonsense out of thin air.
She's fantastic.
She is the highlight of the film, I think. Is the daughter. They give her the anglicised name of Jessica, and she comes in like this art tutor, art therapist character, and it's brilliant. You know, she comes in and she looks at this painting on the wall that the kid's done, and obviously the mum and dad are so proud of it, and without wanting to sound horrible, it's just nonsense that the kid's done, isn't it? There's no, like, it's not expressionist, it's not really sort of, you know, talented for the kids' age, it's just finger painting or whatever. It's really nothing to write home about. But she's like, oh, and you see this line here, that means that there was trouble in his past, and like you were saying about the Chekhov's gun bit, and she's like, oh my God, how did you know there was an incident, and blah, you know, and it's sort of like...
She sort of makes them believe that he's some sort of like
genius,
troubled genius, and that it's gonna cost a fortune to crack him and to bring out his full potential and all this.
Yes, and because of that, my rate will be doubled. And then
the
naive,
that's brilliant.
Yeah, and she says it's so deadpan, and the expression
with so much confidence as well.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. The expression that the actress has on her face, and forgive me if name escapes me, but the expression she has on her face, where she says it completely deadpan, and it's like, you know, my rate will be $100 plus my usual, whatever the usual going rate would be, or whatever it is she says.
There must be a fair few outtakes. Like, if I'd known what, you know, like, unless she didn't know what the underlying story was around the script, I very much doubt she could have kept a straight face through the first couple of takes. You know, it's gotta be funny.
Oh yeah, it's just it's so good. But then the mother's reaction, she's all in tears, and she's like, "Oh my God, yes, thank you so much." And it's like, "Oh, come off it, love." But then, like you say, they're like, "Right, okay, so we need a driver." So the family driver gives Jessica a lift home, and he's hitting on her a little bit in the car, isn't he? He's like, "Sure, I can't give you a lift home," and she's like, "No, the train station will do fine. Go on, give me a lift." Anyway, so she has the brainwave in the car, does Jessica, that if she can get him fired, the dad can drive, so ergo can be a driver.
Yeah.
And so she takes her knickers off
and leaves him in the back of the car for Mr. Head of the family to find. And so he obviously assumes that there's something sort of untoward going on in the driver's, you know, and getting up to naughty things in the back of his car. And
they draw all sorts of conclusions, and so they let they'd let him go, and then the two kids that have already infiltrated the family sort of make a suggestion. Oh well, we know a bloke. Yeah, he used to drive, you know, for so and so, and I think he might be. So anyway, then the dad starts driving, and they go to like car showrooms and stuff like that, don't they? For all these fancy cars that the Park family have got to learn them inside and out, so that they can, you know, so that he can look qualified to drive him. And he slips up a few times, doesn't he? Because he sort of like gets into conversation with him, doesn't he? And takes his eyes off the road, and he's like, there's a moment where he's son of a bitch.
Yeah, it's never quite enough for him to really doubt, you know, that.
No, but it's sort of like not edgy your seat for the viewer, but sort of like a bit of a ooh.
It's like, are they going to get found out?
Because that's the whole thing. Is obviously there's no real sort of audience surrogate character in the film, so you're sort of watching this sort of like there's no way in the film, unless they give themselves up, that they could potentially get caught out. Yeah. So you're sort of waiting for the moment, because you know that they're going to have to get caught out at some point. But anyway, they soon learn that the existing housekeeper is allergic to peaches, and this is again where the ingenuity comes in. They decide, right, well, we'll use that, and so they like get some peach fuzz.
Just scrape a little bit off and
then like
flick it into her hair and stuff.
So she's having an allergic reaction, and so Mr. Park follows her to like the train station or whatever and films her having this reaction, and then shows the footage to not Mr. Park, Mr. Kim, sorry, and then he shows the footage to Mrs. Park saying, "Oh, madam, is this your housekeeper? I thought I recognised her." "Well, it is. Why?" "Well, I was just at the hospital for my annual checkup, and she was in A&E saying that she had confirmed tuberculosis." And so
they managed to get her fired because they've got the family convinced that she's got TB.
And aren't the visual shots at that point though, because everything's slowed down. Like they're racing back from the shop after Mr. Kim's told Mrs. Park that the housekeeper's got TB, and then Mr. Kim, Mr. Kim texts home to let the art teacher, his daughter, know that they're on the way back so that she can put some more peach into this woman's, hair or whatever and cause her to have another reaction so that when she gets there, it looks like she's suffering from TB. And then they put ketchup in a napkin and make it look like
it looks like she's coughing blood up. Oh man!
And so she gets booted as well, and then. No sooner have they done that, but they've invented a hospitality firm called The Care, and then they bring in the mother of the poor family as the new housekeeper,
which is just brilliant. And
it's like they ring this The Care, and then the daughter, the art therapist, answers the phone, sort of like doing a voice on the phone. "Hello, you're through to The Care, and we're going to need all of these details from you," and literally just absolutely just perfection. And I suppose that's the end of the
sort of
the first act, isn't it?
The first act, would you say?
Yeah, I would say the first act, because then the second act is really them sort of integrating into their roles and sort of getting accustomed to it. And then we get sort of not much really happens then. The son, the English tutor, starts to fall for the 14, 15-year-old girl, and it gets a little bit creepy for my money. They share a kiss, and it's sort of like, you can almost see it coming because he says don't fall for her. But then the fact that she's school age and the fact that he's supposed to be, I'd guess, around 20. Yeah. Like I'm not too sure what the what the actual character ages are. So we might be putting 2 and 2 together there and getting 5.
Yeah, maybe.
But it's definitely sort of feels a bit. But anyway, it works as well because it shows them getting too comfortable with the lie. And then anyway, the Park family decide that they're going to go on a camping trip to celebrate their young son Da Song's birthday. And they go, and so the Kim family then all descend upon the Park house, basically to live in it whilst they're away. And that's one thing to note as well, is that they've not said, "Oh, it's my dad that's a driver," "Oh, it's my mum that's a housekeeper." Yeah, they've all pretended that they're not related or affiliated in any way to keep the con up.
It's always like, "Oh, it's my cousin's granddad's someone." Like, it's always a bit of that, which is one thing that I wondered is whether, like, is why they bothered with that, because you think at some point, at the very least with the dad, that have been able to say, "Oh, my dad's a driver," like, "My mum's a housekeeper," whatever else. I'm not sure if it's a plot hole or whether it's just.
I don't think it's a plot hole. I just think it's just to add an added layer to it, and I think it works because obviously when we get to the twist we're about to talk about in a minute, it sort of it adds more weight to it, doesn't it? And it gives certain other characters more to play with in the story.
So while they're away on the camping trip, the original housekeeper, comes back
on a dark, stormy night.
It's chucking down with rain. She's done the CCTV cameras in, which is interesting. There's some cameras.
We see that first. We hear the doorbell go, and then we get a brilliant sort of like shot outside, like a wide shot that then focuses in on the CCTV camera with the wire cut to it. So straight away, right, well, something's a bit off in this scene.
It's obviously a little bit of a false flag because you think, is it going to be like a burglar that's going to come in and murder them all or something? And the ex-housekeeper comes back, begging to be let back into the house.
She's left something in the cellar.
Yeah.
Just before we go any further, Phil, what were you thinking at this point when the housekeeper turned up? Like, because you obviously watched this for the first time. What were your thoughts when she like turned up? Where were you thinking it was going to go?
I thought there was going to be money. I thought she was going to have left loads of money behind, or something really valuable that she'd stolen, and like something that she desperately needed. That I had no idea it was going to go where it was going to go.
No.
It still shocked me. Even with the whole thing, it should have been obvious with the kid with the drawing the figure, but it just didn't hit me.
No, absolutely. So anyway, the old housekeeper comes in. The rest of the family hide, but obviously because the poor mum posing as the new housekeeper is supposed to be there, she quickly tidies herself up and sort of, against a better judgment, lets the woman in. Yeah. And she's, I'm so sorry, I've left something in the cellar. I'll just go and get it. Anyway, she's down there a short while, and the rest of the family are sort of like...
go and sneak down, have a look and see what's going on.
And so they get down, and like the pantry's been moved, and there's just an open door. Yeah. And so it's like, oh. And like at that point, when I watched it for the first time, I watched it with Soph and Laura because I was that keen to see it, and I didn't want to wait for it to come out in the UK. I imported it from Australia. And so we're sat there watching it, and I'm like, oh. And like the music changes, and the whole feel of the film just changes, doesn't it?
I remember seeing the door, and at that point I was like, right, I've now got no idea
what's going on.
But started to get an inkling that it might have been like a person.
So
it could have been like a human.
Yeah, so they go through this door, and it's into this sort of like cement sort of stairwell, like bunker type thing. And the music's sinister, and the lighting's really poor, and it's all just really creepy. And they sort of get to the bottom of it, and there's this really grotty, like sort of almost like bomb shelter. Yeah. And then the wife, the old housekeeper's down there. I've just given it away, haven't I, by saying?
Yeah, a little bit. Should we start that again?
Nah, it's fine. We'll keep it in. We put a spoiler warning. So.
Yeah, no, I'll be alright.
So anyway, the old housekeeper is down there, and she's screaming, honey, are you here? It's me, I'm back. And anyway, it turns out her husband has been living in this secret, like, bomb shelter apartment
for like 5 years.
For like 5 years, living off their table scraps, and basically only coming up to use like the facilities and steal food and forage on a night. Which then immediately puts into perspective the story that was told earlier in the film about why the young lad is so sort of out there, and it's because he had a bit of a mental break when he was about 3. Because
thought he'd seen a ghost.
Because he thought he'd seen a ghost, but he'd actually seen this guy living in his cellar when he'd come down to get a drink in the night. Why do you let your 3-year-old go down and get a drink in the middle of the night?
Yeah, I know.
But either way, it's still a brilliant bit of filmmaking, and yeah. So
I thought it was a nice touch. Else. Like it was, it's a nice way to connect the story of this kid's kind of weird artistic ability to
Yeah, absolutely, it is, yeah.
To something a bit more sinister.
So the rest of the family, because initially Mrs. Kim, the new housekeeper, comes down to see what's going on, and the old housekeeper's like, come on, I'll give you some money, I'll pay you, I'll pay you whatever you want to pay, but you just need to keep feeding my husband. He's on the run from the law and loan sharks, and, he'll be killed if he comes back out into public, and, please, you've got to look out for him for me.
And then they slip up, and one of them,
the rest of the family are peering down the stairs, aren't they? One of them trips, and they all come like dominoes, Scooby-Doo style, rolling down the stairs.
And one of the kids calls the dad.
So she puts it all together then that they're a family of con artists and starts videoing everything going on.
Yeah, so you end up with this kind of like Mexican standoff of potential blackmail victims, which is just astonishing. That's like... that's some of the best storytelling I've ever seen.
It's great, isn't it? Because then, realising that the Park family are on holiday, she films them all, and basically gets them all to confess who they are on video, and then marches them all back up to the upstairs. So then the old housekeeper and her fugitive husband are enjoying the spoils of the house, whilst the poor family are basically... essentially held at gunpoint without a gun in the corner of the other room. So basically, like, don't move otherwise, and they're hovering the finger over the send button, ready to send the video footage, catching them out to the Park family. And then obviously chaos ensues when they realise that the Park family are then coming back.
Yeah, because it's raining and they decided to come home early.
Yeah. And then in a mad twist of things, the housekeeper ends up getting killed.
Yeah.
The old housekeeper, she gets absolutely smashed around the back of her head with a rock that's given as a gift. It's a rock that's supposed to bring good fortune and prosperity to your family. It's given to them by the family friend at the start. She gets twatted around the back of her head.
That's very like Mouse in the Green Mile, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? That like because that's a theme all the way through.
Yeah.
Is this thing that they've got the big prosperity rock? Like it's a thing that gets dropped quite early in the story, and then
Yeah. Oh, Mr. Jingles. Oh. Oh, we're going to take him to Mouseville in Florida. He's going to love it.
I haven't seen the Green Mile for years.
Boy, are you stupid. They ain't no Mouseville in Florida. Do you know what? That film makes me cry in so many moments. And do you know what? I don't even know why I cried at it. But at the end of the film, when you've got Tom Hanks' character and he's like 130 years old or whatever, because he's been blessed with the power that Michael Clarke Duncan has, and then he goes out to his shed and texts his friend out there, and she's like, well, I don't believe a word you've just told me. Oh no! And then opens the shoebox, and you've got also 130-year-old Mr. Jingles. It's like, well, that'd be like 70 years, wouldn't it, or whatever? But anyway, freakishly old mouse, and it's like, oh. But
so we digress.
We do digress anyway. Yeah, Michael Clarke Duncan turns up, and David Morse as well.
There's a brief synopsis for the Green Mile. Spoiler alert, by the way, because that was the ending. If you haven't seen the Green Mile, sorry about that.
It's fine. It's like a 30-year-old film at this point. But yeah. So anyway, the old housekeeper ends up sort of getting killed. So they drag her body downstairs and manage to wrestle the fugitive husband back into the cellar and basically tie him up and leave him down there. And then the Park family, they come back, and so the dad, the daughter, and the son
hiding under a table.
They're hiding under a table the
which
whole
is amazing.
night.
After really quickly
like tidying the house up, and so yeah, so they come home, but then the son, the reason they've come home from their holiday is because they've gone on a camping trip, and then they're peeing it down, so they can't camp in the tent. But the son's insistent, so they let him set his teepee up in the yard and camp in the rain. So then Mum and Dad Park decide that they're going to sleep on the couch, and they don't realise that under their coffee table is the driver, the art tutor, and the English tutor. So the con artists are under the table, and so then there's a really awkward sex scene.
Yeah, that is really awkward. That was hard to watch. That was really hard to sit through.
Because I mean, it's awkward because you know that the character's under the table. But
it's also awkward because you know that the kid's outside in the tent and could come out at any moment.
Yeah.
It's also quite graphic. Like it's.
Oh yeah, it's really full on, isn't it?
Yeah,
sort of like,
they don't pull any punches with it. Like it's quite.
There's no sort of like insinuation, is the sort of thing. No. It's like, oh right, yep, she's definitely doing that, and oh yeah, he's definitely doing that.
That is happening.
And yeah, I think things are happening. Don't want to spend too long on that topic because it's not what we're about. But I cried with laughter when he asked her, "Have you still got them dirty knickers from the back of my car?"
No. Oh, what the... Like... I wonder if that was improvised.
I hope so.
Do you know what I mean? Because, like, just for the sake of making the rest of the crew laugh.
I mean, I hope so. I hope so.
Could it just be the way they were directed? Like, just improvise it, but say something... like the bit in Fight Club... it reminded me of the bit in Fight Club where
Great School.
Yeah, and it was supposed like they went through 5 or 6 different lines, and she just improvised them. But like in the book, it was "I want to have your abortion," I think is what she said. And David Fincher told her on set, just say something horrible, like the worst thing you can think of.
Yeah,
and I wonder if it's been something like that.
She said something like, "I haven't been like that since junior school,
grade school,
or grade school, or whatever." Yeah, and it's like. Because didn't Fox or whoever put Fight Club out sort of like, we can't use that line. So then they put the other take in and they were like, alright, use the first take.
The take that they used was, I haven't been fucked like that since grade school.
Yeah, I know what I was going to say, but when they told them no to that initially, didn't
the original one was, I want to have your abortion, and they said no to that.
Guys, we've gone 9 for 9. Have you realised what we've just done, Phil?
We've talked about David Fincher in every single one. How have we done that? How have we managed to get a David Fincher reference in every single episode? That's amazing.
Oh, Jesus.
We haven't got any James Bond references in yet. And that doesn't count. Just mentioning the name doesn't count. It has to be an actual reference.
Fair enough, yeah, absolutely fine.
Because that'll be 9 for 9 as well.
It would probably be 9 for 9. Yeah, I'm gonna try now. It won't come naturally now, will it? So anyway, yeah, the sort of once they've had their cheeky bit of a fling together, and they settle down for the night. The Kim family escape. And then they're in this torrential storm, and then they get back to their apartment, which they've not been at for about a week because this family have been on holiday, and
it's been flooded.
It's been flooded, and again, really graphic, isn't it? Like it shows the toilet backfiring and the sewers flooding in through the windows, and they're literally neck deep in sewage.
It's very real.
Yeah, trying to get their things, and sort of they end up having to sleep on like a gym floor with loads of other people affected, and they have to have borrowed hand-me-down, donated clothes sort of thing. Found the right word eventually, went through a few, but then
got there in the end.
But the kid sort of the young kid, Da Song, started making a few points throughout the film about, "Ooh, you smell like them, and you smell like them."
Yeah,
and they're like, "What do you mean the soap?" And it's like, "No, families have naturally an odour, don't they, sort of thing, like a natural scent."
They all live in the same house. And
yeah, exactly, yeah. And he started to put two and two together, but nobody pays him any mind. But then they sort of get called the next day and decide that they're going to have an impromptu birthday party for Da Song because they couldn't have the holiday like they wanted. And so they've all got to go back knowing full well that there's a dead woman in the cellar and a crazy tied up guy down there waiting to cause all hell. And yeah, they have a party, and the young son of the family goes down the cellar, doesn't he, to try and find out what's going on. And then the husband tackles him and knocks him round the back of the head again with the same rock, braining his head in. And he comes upstairs, and he basically causes all hell, doesn't he?
Grabs a kitchen knife, goes mad.
Yeah, starts slashing at people, kills the daughter, the con artist daughter, Jessica, which sends the dad into a blind rage, Mr. Kim. So he kills the guy that's been living in the cellar. But then also, we've not really talked about it much, but there's been some tension building up throughout the film between Mr. Park and Mr. Kim. And a few times there's been snide remarks made about the way Mr. Kim behaves, or the way he smells, or whatever. And it kind of feels like it comes out of the blue, really.
Yeah,
but Mr. Kim stabs Mr. Park. I know it's that's right, because when the guy emerges from the cellar, obviously Da Song sees him and realises it's his ghost and has a fit, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And so then when Mr. Park's like, "You need to drive us to the hospital," but he doesn't care because obviously his daughter's just been stabbed, and it's sort of everybody shows the true colours, don't they, at that moment?
Yeah, it's a very quick. It's a bit Tarantino-esque.
Yeah, like blink and you'll miss it almost.
Yeah, it's a very sort of quick. Everyone shoots everyone else. You know what I mean? It's like that, like the cellar scene from Inglourious Bastards. Like,
yeah.
It's such a huge build up to this one moment, and then it all happens really quickly, and you're like, "What?" Like, hang on, did if you miss a second of it, you're done.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you just sort of like, but it's impossible to take your eyes off the screen.
Oh yeah,
because it's just like you're like, "Oh my god, what's going on?" So anyway, yeah, everybody flees the party, and Mr. Kim sort of disappears. Nobody knows where he is, and we then cut to a few weeks later, and the son survived his attack from the guy in the cellar, and we see him waking up in hospital all bandaged up and laughing hysterically due to brain damage, being read his rights, as he's been arrested for fraud and deception. So him and the mother stand trial and amazingly get away with probation. But they want the dad for the murder of the head of the Park family,
and he's disappeared.
And he's disappeared.
Well, he's allegedly on the run, which because I'm really glad the whole sort of garden massacre bit wasn't the end.
Yeah,
because it's like you kind of have to really earn an ending like that.
Yeah, and whilst it would have done,
yeah,
I think I would have always wanted to know. It's a bit like The Fugitive.
Yeah,
like The Fugitive. Obviously, he's not in the same league as this
film. There was still
film.
loose ends to tie up.
But yeah, it was like sort of like they catch the real bad guy. And then Tommy Lee Jones handcuffs Harrison Ford, and they get in the back of a cop car. It's like there's no like
there's a loose end in there.
Even in the sequel, when they do the whole rehash with Wesley Snipes, there's like the little coda on the end where they're all on the town hall steps and the mayor's like, "You're officially pardoned," and Tommy Lee Jones is like, "Yeah, that's great, man," and they throw that little bit in of everything's all right, and it's always niggled me about that. So I know what you mean. I'm a big fan of that in films as well as there needs to be.
Yeah, got to tie up all the loose ends.
Got to tie them up.
So the kid's been, the son's been sort of going out into the mountains from this sort of vantage point where he can see the house, and he's been going up into the woods every day and
just sort of hoping for signs that his dad might be around somewhere.
Yeah, and there's a breaker switch in the cellar, which was kind of used earlier on, which we didn't mention.
Yeah, it's sort of like just a passing moment in the film, really, where the guy in the cellar that's initially down there, the fugitive husband, or fugitive husband number one, come on down. That's a crap episode of Blind Date, isn't it? You say Cilla like, "Come on down, love, where you from?"
Yeah, so he's been using it as for Morse code to get messages out, and yeah, the son sees this Morse code message coming from the porch of the house where they've got this light flickering on and off, and it's his dad. Yeah,
and he's basically in all the chaos.
Yeah,
he snuck out of the house and then went in through the service entrance in the garage,
and then back in,
and back down into the cellar.
So they all think he's on the run somewhere, and he's been living in the house the whole time.
But yeah, that's one thing we haven't mentioned, which we do need to sort of just talk about, is the fact that the Park family didn't know about the hidden cellar because the bloke who built the house and then died in it or whatever before he had it, had basically sort of put it in as like when tensions were really rising between North and South Korea.
Oh yeah,
as a bomb shelter.
Yeah.
But then he never told anybody about it when he sold the house. But the housekeeper knew because she'd worked for both of them. So then when her husband got into trouble, she snuck him in there
and hid the cellar.
Yeah. So it's not on any of the sales particulars.
Aye, yeah.
So nobody, when they sell the house on again, nobody knows to look for it. And because the cabinets that cover it look like they're built into the cellar, realistically, unless you ripped all those cabinets out, you wouldn't find the room.
Yeah, no, it is an interesting touch.
But yeah. And then there's sort of like a bit of a fake out ending, which is probably my only gripe with the film, is they sort of lead you to believe that because the son's giving this whole sort of like almost like Gary Oldman in the Dark Knight style monologue about how he's going to become powerful and successful himself, and he's going to buy the house, and that the family will all live together again.
And it's a fantasy.
It's
like, yeah. Because, yeah, you sort of like, you want it to end like that because, you know, you've grown quite fond of these characters by now, but it's, yeah, it is a disappointing sort of
like, because it's sort of almost like the, you know, we'll be together again. And then the almost final, like the penultimate shot of the film is the three surviving family members of the poor family embracing on the lawn. Uh-huh. And then it just cuts back to him in the mountains daydreaming. And then the credits roll.
Yeah, and it's
sort of like that was my own, and that's a minuscule gripe because this film is near perfection.
I mean, it's a good fake out, you know. It's a good sort of. It's the last trick, isn't it? It's like it's but that's not going to happen. 'Cause
we're not going to give you that.
That's not how life works. It's like
that's not how the Force works.
Because I remember thinking, watching that ending and thinking, no, do you know what I mean? Just no, that like. Somebody would have found him, or he'd be dead by now, or there's no way he could have survived down there for long enough, like without. Because the thing is that the guy that was living in the cellar beforehand had help.
Yeah, he had his wife.
Yeah.
And there's nobody in the house, and it's vacant for months at a time. So, like, what's he eating? What's he?
Yeah, this guy's got no help at all. And
but then they say a German family moves in, so then he starts really doing what the other guy was doing, like going and raiding the fridge and stuff like that. That's a dicey game, isn't it? You take your life in your hands every time you go up them stairs.
I remember thinking, just no, it's just not. It's not possible. There's no way you could have survived down there for this long.
Can you imagine, like, if it was you or I that had that house and we're just there pulling an all-night jam session or a movie night?
Yeah,
some random Korean fella just comes in. Don't mind me, lads. Just getting some bacon out. Yeah, pal, crack on. Wait a second.
Oh man, it would be a very Scooby-Doo moment. Right?
Yeah.
Let's see who you really are.
I always love that in Scooby-Doo where, like, there's a knock at the door and you get the... and Scooby, and they've always got the nightgowns on, because it's always when they're sleeping. They've always got like the Laurel and Hardy sort of like 40s
With the hat.
with the hat, and Scooby always goes to the door and opens it, "Rillo," and whatever ghost they're again standing there, and then he sort of clocks it, but instead of doing his usual like "Ruh-oh" and running away, like screaming in fear sort of thing, he sort of shuts the door politely, goes back to Shaggy, checks him, "Raggy, it's for you."
I love the thing that they're chasing each other through the corridors thing, when they go through doors and then come out of different ones inexplicably. Like, so yeah, Parasite is the best episode of Scooby-Doo ever.
It really is. And there's the title.
Parasite, the greatest episode of Scooby-Doo. Oh man,
yeah, it was particularly moving though at the end of the film, where Kevin, the family of the poor film, he's come out of his daydream. We're just about to go to the credits, and he just sort of almost breaks the fourth wall, doesn't he? And he looks at the camera and goes, "Scooby Dooby Doo."
So it was very moving.
It really, really was
very moving.
Yeah.
So it did.
They would have gotten away with it. Not for the meddling guy in the cellar.
If it wasn't for you meddling Parasite people. So it won a lot of Oscars.
It did.
It won a lot of Oscars. And Bong Joon-Ho was... did you watch the Oscars?
I did.
Yeah. I felt a bit sorry for him, because clearly the only thing that he really wanted to do after he won his first award of the night
Was go and celebrate.
was go and get drunk and celebrate.
Because he won Best Original Screenplay, didn't he?
And then Best Director.
And then Best Director.
And Best Foreign Language Film.
Best Foreign Language Film, and then Best Picture.
And then Best Picture.
He was so gracious.
Yeah.
He really was absolutely so gracious as a winner.
Well, I assume he was, if his...
But like he was, because he was up
If
against
his interpreter wasn't lying.
Well, no, but I mean, the thing is though, he can speak perfect English.
Yeah.
And what he did there by using an interpreter was just being really like true to his Korean roots, and sort of like, do you know what? Fair play to him. Korean's his first language. Well, why not speak in it and express yourself 100% how you feel?
I think the thing is, because the film, the dialogue in the film is beautiful. I think it's partly because it's a language that I don't understand, but it's one of those, when you get people who say like, who reads sort of Nordic poetry and stuff like that, and it's if you can read it in the original Old Norse, it's really quite beautiful. Like when you hear people say, if you can read it in German, it's different, and I'm assuming it's like that. It's contextually going to be quite different in Korean, and I think because it was a film that did so well in a foreign language, in a foreign language that people by and large aren't familiar with, particularly in the Western world, I think he really did himself credit by doing that, because it was a proud day to be a Korean speaker. It was...
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And I totally get that.
It was just an absolutely fantastic film, and I loved it when he was up against the likes of Scorsese, Tarantino. I can't remember who else was in there, but there were some of the real absolute heavyweights. I don't know, it was Spielberg up for something that year, but literally there was like, there were some of the biggest names of the last 40 years in cinema. He was essentially the underdog in that category.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, in most categories, apart from possibly the foreign film one.
He was up against Martin Scorsese for The Irishman, Todd Phillips for Joker, which I thought might have been a done deal for Best Director that year. In fact, I think that was my prediction. Sam Mendes for 1917 and Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time.
So, when you look at that lineup, that's a lineup. But I mean, really, I haven't seen Irishman yet, and our friend and collaborator Mr. McDade will be probably having words about that.
It is very good.
It's
very, very good.
But I can see why. Look, this is the best of the films that I've seen.
Yeah.
And whilst I expect The Irishman to be very good, I don't expect it to blow this one out of the water.
I mean, let's be honest. That's at least two of objectively the top 10 greatest directors of all time. Mm-hmm. Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino. Sam Mendes is probably in there these days as well, since 1917.
Yeah, possibly, but with the discussion that we were having the other night about sort of like, when you look at sort of like, they need to have 5 or more films in their filmography, and what's the ratio of great to not so great, Is Sam Mendes in that list? I mean, yeah, he's done like American Beauty, he's done Road to Perdition, Skyfall, 1917. Yeah, he's probably yeah.
I think ratio of good to bad. I think
Yeah, because I mean the only bad one I can think of for him is Spectre, and that's not bad. It's just not
a good Bond movie.
It's just not great.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think quite like Quentin Tarantino's probably on that list. You know,
Tarantino.
The ratio of I'm a little bit hit and miss with Tarantino. I love him, but sometimes I wasn't a huge fan of The Hateful Eight.
Do you know which one I like, but I don't love?
Yeah.
And you're probably going to fall out with me over this.
Right.
Reservoir Dogs.
Okay. Yeah.
I liked it, but I didn't come out of it loving it. And then you came out of Hollywood thinking that it were a bit hit and miss, didn't you?
I've come forward with it a little bit since, but
I loved it. I thought it was his best thing since Django.
Okay. Yeah. My personal favourite film of his is Inglourious Bastards. Followed by Pulp Fiction quite closely, I think. But
I think mine's either Pulp Fiction or Jackie Brown.
Jackie Brown's a great watch.
Jackie Brown is so good.
But yeah, again, see, this is the thing, because Tarantino's a very opinion divides Tarantino movies quite a lot. But I think objectively, you know, in terms of actual talent as a filmmaker, and his ratio of masterpieces to this was okay or not very good, he's up in the top 5 at least.
Oh yeah, he's up there, isn't he? I mean,
Scorsese, Spielberg as well.
Hitchcock, definitely. Maybe even like John Huston, and you know.
Some people would probably
Fritz
say Stanley
Lang
Kubrick. Personally, I wouldn't, but
Kubrick's. I think Kubrick has earned his place in history, but I do get that it's an acquired taste.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, there's some of his stuff that I think Spartacus is great.
Big fan of Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, Full Metal Jacket, I love. But I tried to watch Barry Lyndon not so long since, because we were obviously, and we'll still watch it when we do our movie marathon that we've got in plan. But I just couldn't get into it at the moment.
Yeah.
I do like Clockwork Orange, though it's
Clockwork Orange is the one I couldn't get on with.
It's weird.
I think this is too weird for me.
I think so long as you go into it knowing that you're watching a bit of an out there film.
Yeah.
But then Doctor Strange Love's great.
Yeah.
Did he do It's a Mad, Mad World?
I'm not sure.
Well, we can ponder that for another time, folks.
Familiar with this film,
or, guys, if you want to ring in, you can just make sure that you ask the bill payer's permission and that you are over 16 years of age. The number is 555.
I haven't heard that combination of words since I was about 15, watching Blue Peter. 15? No, 12, 13 maybe, watching Blue Peter.
Nice save. Yeah,
not 15.
Do you know what though, Phil? It doesn't matter. We are two nearly 30-year-old men.
Yeah.
We've just sat and had an in-depth discussion about Scooby-Doo.
Okay, so Scooby-Doo episode Parasite. Is that going in the museum?
100% it's going in the museum.
It's got it, right?
I would say with this one,
You have chosen wisely.
So we've talked about Parasite, and obviously that's going in the museum. We definitely chose wisely with that one, Phil.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just such a great film. So last time, if you can remember back to 3 years ago when we put our last episode out, we talked about the then upcoming 93rd Academy Awards, which were a really interesting ceremony, wasn't it, to see it done the way
it was, yeah,
that it was done.
It was weird because obviously, with lockdown and everything, and I love the Oscars. I always love watching the Oscars. I always enjoy the ceremony, but it was an unusual one, and it was very closed in. There was a lot of sort of most of the people that were involved in it were people who were already on the list anyway. For like Riz Ahmed was giving out Oscars. You had
the people that were presenting and doing the hosting were people that were, like you say, in the pool of winners.
Were already involved in it. I'm not surprised that Nomadland won at all. I kind of had that on my list anyway. I got 8.
So you got 8 more than me, because we said in our last episode that we would watch as many of the nominees as possible, and that we would do our predictions and post them on social media. Well, being the absolute sport that he is, young Philip did that. I have been snowed under with work, with the band, and then just when I thought that I was getting a bit of time to crack on and get everything done, I fell ill.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I couldn't play the game. Now, I said that whoever lost had to do some sort of a forfeit, that our friends, the McDades over at Going Jack, would have to come up with us, and the forfeit would have to be something that I could do, over audio on this podcast for you. So stay tuned for that, because in episode 10, whatever the silly forfeit is that they have me do, I will be doing it. Yeah. But what we thought we'd do
I'm finding a good word for the cinnamon challenge, by the way.
Twat.
Just don't get it on my mics.
But yes, so
make sure you cough away from the microphone.
So what we thought we'd do now is, because I've only seen a couple of the films, and Phil's seen most of them now, because you were an absolute trooper and cracked on with it.
I've been good this year. The last couple of years I've missed out on a lot of stuff, but I made sure this year I watched a lot of them.
So I think Phil's going to run through the wins, some of the hits and some of the misses, and we're just going to give you our very brief thoughts on the outcome of that. If you want a more in-depth discussion on it, please go back and listen to the previous episode. We talked at length about our predictions and thoughts, facts, theories about the films and the actors involved. But yes, I shall hand over to you, sir.
So I did get 8 right, which I'm fairly happy with that. I usually miss out on a few of the sort of earlier award give outs. I didn't do too well on the craft awards, which I usually do okay on, but one kind of annoying thing this year, and as you'll know, me and James are both musicians, both quite into sound production and stuff like that. They've amalgamated the 2 sound awards into one. So you've had best sound mixing and best sound editing. Now they are I think they're 2 very different
things, yeah.
Different things, and it's like the same film very rarely wins both, which to me is like evidence that it's 2 different things. But for some reason this year they've decided to amalgamate the 2, which is a shame, I think. But best sound overall, and I think it probably would have won both anyway, was The Sound of Metal. It was the best, some of the best sound work I've ever seen in a film. I was actually kind of hoping that Riz Ahmed was going to win best actor for The Sound of Metal as well, because his performance was gut-wrenching. He was so good.
He's just a really talented bloke, though.
He is. Riz Ahmed's
But I mean, when you look at both the lists, all the people involved are just talented folk. There's nobody in there where you think, oh, I'm not sure about you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, as much as I did enjoy Minari, but I don't think Stephen Yeun really kind of had that extra thing. Minari was a film that had a lot of Oscar bait and not a lot of substance to me. I do need to see it again, but Stephen Yeun's performance just wasn't kind of that good, But apart from that, it could have gone either way. I mean, you had Anthony Hopkins in The Father, Riz Ahmed in The Sound of Metal, Chadwick Boseman in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which I watched for the first time after the ceremony. I assumed Chadwick Boseman was going to win that purely kind of cynically because he died, and God rest him and all that. I know that the Academy does love to give out posthumous awards. I was kind of hoping it was going to be Riz Ahmed. Gary Oldman in Mank was fantastic as well.
Yeah, I mean, my money was on him.
Yeah,
to be fair, because I thought that everything about Mank was just a spectacular film. But then again, I'm a Fincher fanboy, aren't I? Yeah. So it's sort of like, that's absolutely just,
Yeah. There was a few that I guessed most of the ones I got right, to be fair. The animated film, I figured it was going to be Soul. It's the only one I've seen, but it's Disney. It had some great reviews, got great music. Also won best original score, which I got half right because it was still Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. I thought they were going to win it for Mank, but
you got the artists right, just not the song.
And geniuses, both of them.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Trent Reznor is one of the greatest musicians of the 21st century. He's amazing.
Absolutely.
And was one of the greatest musicians of the 20th. I got the foreign film right, which is Another Round, which was a complete guess. I guessed that one because...
what won it this time?
Another Round.
Oh, Another Round, sorry. Sorry, I thought you meant then as it was another round of awards in the next, and the next award is.
I just figured because it was the only one with an actor in it that I recognised. Mads Mikkelsen was in it, and feature documentary because the only one I'd seen was My Octopus Teacher,
That
So-
do you know what? I have actually seen that.
Yeah, it's so good.
That is very. I didn't realise that was in there. That's so.
Yeah.
It was so moving.
That won the Oscar for Best Feature Documentary. It was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. I thought it was amazing. Best sound for The Sound of Metal. Best cinematography was the only one of the only ones I got right, and Mank got that.
Which do you know what? It's absolutely fair, because I know we talked about that in our very first episode when we were still very fresh to this whole podcasting thing.
I would have voted for Tenet if it had been nominated, which I'm surprised it wasn't, because Tenet was nominated for Best Visual Effects, but the effects it's practical effects. There's not like,
but not necessarily, because they did do some of the whole sort of like he's walking forward and will play the film backwards, so it looks like he's going backwards sort of thing.
Yeah. But it's not CGI, is my point.
No, but it is a visual effect.
It is a visual effect. So yeah, if you count that as, because I would say that was more about cinematography and editing. But,
yeah, possibly, yeah. Well, you know me and my thoughts on Tenet, mate. I just felt it was, and again, I'm a huge Nolan fan, but I just felt that it was him sort of just flexing his sort of, look at me, I'm Christopher Nolan, I can literally do whatever I want. I mean, fair play to the guy, because he has bloody earned that.
Yeah.
But I just think he went a hair too far.
Visual effects is one that he definitely earned, though. I think.
Yeah.
I think it did get snubbed, but it got snubbed in the cinematography category.
Yeah, I think he just got snubbed all around. But then again, do you know what? It's one of them where 2020 is a weird year for everything. But it's a weird year for films, because obviously lots of films that would have just gone straight to streaming and never have even been given a look at, let alone been held in the regard that they've been, have been included because there was nothing else to compare them to. And Tenet really was one of the only films last year to get a theatrical release.
Yeah, which is interesting. I mean, because I know they waited a long time for it to have a theatrical release to make sure that.
And yeah, he lost money on it, and he sunk loads of money and time into it, because he's like, this is not premiering on HBO Max. And do you know what? With all the feedback, I've still not watched my Blu-ray of it, but with all the feedback that it's got about the audio quality not being great, and unless you've got a 7.1 with fantastic bass, and
again, it's one of those. It's where you get problems when you have a soundscape that it's really using. It's not just sort of in that 7.1 surround sound, but it's really using every element of that 7.1 surround, and then you compress that into stereo. You're gonna get clashing. You're gonna get problems. You're gonna get panning that's not working out right. And I mean that's about the extent to which I understand 7.1 Dolby, because as much as like I do know my way around, a fair bit of sound engineering, but obviously you get the same problems when you compress a stereo file down into mono.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you sort of lose some of the clarity, and
because everything's sort of mashed together and compressed into one.
absolutely,
And which is gonna happen if you fall victim to that.
I suppose it is. I suppose in a roundabout way, what I'm just trying to say is I don't think that it's his best work, and I think that he's been. It's almost a bit like, as much as I love Batman Returns, it's almost a bit like Tim Burton with Batman Returns. It's like he was allowed to go to Tim Burton.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And it's like, if there'd have been a bit more studio interference, as much as I don't like studio interference, if there'd have been maybe
sometimes they've got to be kept in check a little bit, dude.
Yeah, like if there'd have been somebody going, right, okay, Chris, well, we're gonna have
calm down a little.
yeah, just rein it in a bit. Like, we're gonna have to put subtitles on what Robert Pattinson's saying here, because you've got too many whams going on in the background. Or, does this guy really need to be walking backwards when everybody else is going? Yeah. But yeah, I've still not seen Nomadland, which I know has come to streaming now, and I've heard it is very depressing.
It's very depressing,
which
but
is
it is
putting me off watching it, if I'm totally honest.
It is very depressing.
But that won Best Actress for Frances McDormand.
Frances McDormand, and she earned that. She was very, very good.
And it took the big prize, didn't it? It went Best Picture.
Got Best Picture, which I'm not surprised. I mean, it was. I thought it was going to be a toss up between that and Judas and the Black Messiah, because I thought that film was exceptional. I think Nomadland just had more Oscar bait elements to it. And yeah, one thing that did surprise me with Judas and the Black Messiah, great for Daniel Kaluuya for winning Best Supporting Actor for that. It was odd that him and Lakeith Stanfield were in the same, were voted in the same category for that. Because to me, like, Daniel Kaluuya was a lead actor in that.
He's on the poster, isn't he?
Yeah,
I've still not seen it, but I'm sure he's the face on the poster.
Yeah.
Both him and Keith Stanfield
good.
are absolute heavyweights, and those chaps are going to be around for years to come. And I know we voiced our support for Lakeith on a previous episode.
It was wishful thinking, but I had my money on Lakeith. I just love him. I think he's amazing, and he's consistently making very, very good career decisions. He's got somebody working very hard for him
in his management, or he's the agent,
and he's got some serious talent. And it's when you see like stuff like the Actors Roundtable and Actors on Actors, and you've got these people talking to each other, and I think it was Brad Pitt,
Adam Sandler,
talking to Adam Sandler, and they'd both been in a film with Lakeith Stanfield, and like Sandler mentioned him, and Brad Pitt just went, "Oh my god, that kid, like." He's so good, and when someone like Brad Pitt says that, you know what I mean? Because I know Brad Pitt started out his career as kind of the pretty boy thing, and he learned to act better, and he's now, the guy is a heavyweight. He's amazing, but for someone like that to say, "Oh my god, this kid," about someone like Lakeith Stanfield, that guy's got a bright future. Like
to be fair to Brad Pitt though, yes, he did start his career as, like you say, a bit of a pretty boy.
He's always had chops though.
Yeah, but he has always had chops, and you only have to look at things like Seven or California. And
one thing I am surprised about was that Anthony Hopkins won Best Actor. I think there was a bit of controversy at the time. He put out a video the next day thanking everybody, and this is something I feel like I sort of have to say for the to sort of show my support for Anthony Hopkins, because he is an amazing actor. It still made history because he was he's now the oldest person ever to win Best Actor.
Is he the oldest man, or is he the oldest recipient?
He's the oldest recipient of the Best Actor award, I think is what it is. And there was a few things floating around the next day when he made his speech about, why wasn't he there to accept. The guy's 83, he lives in the middle of nowhere in Wales. He's not going to come to LA, and he's not going to be up at 4 o'clock in the morning to...
No, I'm going to say, I suppose with the global pandemic on, it's not like he could travel and be there for it, is it? I've not seen either film, and so I cannot comment on which performance I would have voted for. And that's all I can say on it. Anything else would be speculation and getting into a territory I don't want to start going down, because I'm not well versed enough on that's everything else that's been speculated on there.
Nomadland also won Best Director with Chloe Zhao, which fair play. I honestly thought Emerald Fennell was going to win it for Promising Young Woman, but she did win it for Best Original Screenplay, so fair play. Both incredible films. I think I enjoyed Promising Young Woman a bit more.
I can't wait to see that.
It's so good, man.
We've got that on demand this week to watch.
It's horrifying, and it's sort of... Do you remember that thing with Elliot Page that we watched?
Oh yeah, Hard Candy.
It's a bit like that. It's like it sort of tricks you into this false sense of this.
That
film
was a hard watch, wasn't it?
Oh wow, yeah, that's probably the toughest time I've had watching a film, I think.
I've had tougher. I went through a gore phase.
Oh yeah.
When I was in my late teens, and my good buddy Ross, who I think listens to us, shout out to you, buddy, if you hear this episode. One dark and spooky night after a Scooby-Doo adventure, we were round at my mate Andy's, or was it we were at somebody's house anyway, and we put the original Last House on the Left on.
Oh yeah.
The Wes Craven one.
Yeah.
And without going into detail in it, it was very explicit. And apparently this film was one of the first films that Wes Craven had done after he transitioned out of being an adult film director. And with it being a graphic sexual attack scene, and there being some adult film actors and actresses in it...
It's quite brutal.
It's quite brutal.
Yeah.
And I don't get squeamish. I can generally sit through most things. And in that film, the sight of that poor girl's character being attacked was enough for me to just go... No.
Yeah, it's not easy to watch.
No.
It's really not.
I could sit through the remake of that film, funnily enough, and then Human Centipede, I made it through that. That's probably quite tame for a lot of people, but that turned my stomach as well.
That's a hard one to sit through as well, yeah. So yeah, what we'll probably do with the Oscars ones at some point is we're gonna we'll get all these movies together. Maybe we'll do a marathon and we'll come back to it.
Yeah, we can always talk about them in more detail later on. Like I say, so folks, really sorry that we had a lot of plans for what we wanted to do this awards season, and then like we said, with a lot of stuff going on in other aspects of our lives and our band leaving Overmorrow starting to get a fair bit of traction now that here in the UK lockdown's starting to be eased. We've found that there's all of a sudden a lot of opportunity to record and to gig and to...
So like a lot of people, we've started a new sort of hobby thing in lockdown because we've had loads of time and we thought, I've always wanted to do a podcast, let's do it now, and then suddenly finding that like we're short on time. But we are going to still try and do it every 2 weeks.
We are indeed, yeah. We're gonna keep bringing you the content because we love doing this, and we absolutely love the fact that you guys out there at home love listening to us. And
whenever we're in a room together, we sit and talk about movies anyway. So
it's one of those things where we might as well just put some microphones up and let you hear the nonsense that comes out. So because we've sort of been on the back burner with this recently, we decided that we'd sit the Q&A out for a couple of sessions, and we are going to bring that back next time because it's going to be our 10th episode. Yeah, so for the 10th episode, as I mentioned, we're going to do Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, because that's the film that our title is derived from.
Yeah. It's also one of our, collectively our favourite films of all time. So.
It really is, yeah. And we've both got lots to say about Indiana Jones, and I feel that the timing's quite good as well, because obviously the fifth one's been announced, and there's the pre-production starting on that now, so there's lots of buzz, and we can have a bit of fun talking about Indiana Jones.
Absolutely.
And we're just going to have a really good time doing that. And then we'll be able to let you know what's going to be coming up for episodes 11 through 20 and the next sort of run of 10 episodes that'll realistically probably take us towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
It's mental, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
In a couple of weeks, we're halfway through 2021.
Mad. Absolutely mad.
Absolute lunacy. So what we thought we'd do, rather than just rambling on at you about anything and nothing, is I'm going to test Phil's film knowledge.
Should we do a question jingle?
Should we do a question jingle?
Yeah, I think we should do a question jingle. Question jingle?
Jingle!
Jingle! Come on! Butt scratcher!
Butt scratcher! Butt scratcher!
Butt scratcher!
So, I've got here a movie quiz, not one that I've written, but I've pulled one off the old Tinterweb, and I am going...
This is either going to be amazing or really embarrassing.
It is. But what we can do is I'm not going to cherry pick the questions too much, but I'm not going to be an absolute bastard to you and go, right, in this French avant-garde cinema, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So, question number 1. In The Matrix, does Neo take the blue pill or the red pill?
It's the red pill, isn't it?
It is the red pill.
Because the red pill, the blue pill's the one that just lets him
go back to normal life, absolutely. Matrix are probably quite a good one to revisit, because Matrix 4's coming out this Christmas, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's about 20 years since the first one came out, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we'd probably have to watch all 3, but I don't know. I don't want to ruin the first one by watching the other 2. Maybe you could let us know about that in the comments. If we were to do an episode on The Matrix, would you be happy with us just talking about the first one, or sort of diving into the other 2? Because there are some there's some interesting ideas in the other 2. There's some interesting
it's just the
bits of
execution,
philosophy and stuff, and so some interesting fight scenes, and the car chases are pretty cool, and but it is just the first one's immaculate, but the other 2 not so much.
Absolutely. So what is the name of the skyscraper, Phil, in the hit film Die Hard?
Nakatomi Plaza.
It is indeed. So you've had a couple of easy ones there.
I'm 2 for 2.
Going 2 for 2. Question number 3. What was the first feature-length animated movie ever to be released?
Oh, no. Are we talking fully animated or
fully animated?
Fully animated. So not like a mixture of stop motion.
No.
It's got to be something Disney.
I'd say you're warm.
Because they did a lot. I know they did a lot of short films. A lot of Mickey Mouse stuff, and it wasn't the Jungle Book, was it?
It wasn't the Jungle Book, no.
I have no idea.
Snow White and the
Snow
Seven
White.
Dwarfs.
Ah, okay.
Which
I
is-
didn't realise it was that old.
Yeah, it's considered the first of the classic Disney films.
What year was it?
I believe it was 37.
Wow. That's amazing.
So the head of what kind of animal is front and centre in an infamous scene from The Godfather?
Os.
It's an ose. He's got it right. So what TV show was Jack Nicholson referencing when he ad-libbed "Here's Johnny" in The Shining?
Oh, oh no. It was an American game show. Was it an American game show?
It's American.
It wasn't a game show.
It wasn't a
I
game
think it
show.
was a game show.
Sort of a precursor to what we're doing.
Oh, I don't know.
It was The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. And here's your host. Here's Johnny.
Oh, right, okay, I'm 2 for 4.
What is the name of the anthemic dance near the beginning of the Rocky Horror Picture Show?
It's the Time Warp.
It's the Time Warp.
It's Time Warp. 3 for 5.
3 for 5. What number are we going to, Phil?
So should we go to 10?
Let's go to 10. Okie dokie. So, for what movie did Senor Spielbergo win his first Oscar for Best Director?
Isn't Steven Spielberg?
Yes, it's Steven Spielberg.
I know you thought that was funny, but genuinely wasn't sure. His first Oscar. It's gonna be before. It's gonna be like
So it's his first Oscar for Best Director.
for Best Director. It's gonna be like It's gonna be before the 80s, isn't it?
Maybe. Maybe not.
Was it E.T.?
It wasn't E.T.
It wasn't E.T.
It was Schindler's List.
Oh God! Do you know what? Yeah. I don't know. I thought Spielberg had won an Oscar before that, but
I think he possibly has done, but maybe for like Best Picture and things
yeah,
like that.
not Best Director. Okay, right. I'm 3 for 6.
You are 3 for 6.
Half and half.
Which Hollywood movie star plays himself in Zombieland?
Bill Murray.
Bill freaking Murray.
I love Bill Murray. There's so many like really cool stories about Bill Murray. There's the thing where because he raids a lot of like student parties and stuff where he's hanging out in cities, and there's stories about him showing up at people's houses and just like doing the dishes at 4 a.m. and
Yeah, like stealing chips from people in McDonald's and
yeah, then going, no one's ever gonna believe you. Apparently he does that all the time. Like there's loads of stories about him doing
would
that.
be brilliant. I would love to meet Bill Murray.
Oh, he just seems like such a dude.
He is one of my favourite actors of all
Yeah.
time. I'll watch anything the guy does.
I love Bill Murray.
In Risky Business, what song did Tom Cruise famously lip sync to in his underwear?
I don't know. I've never seen it.
You've never seen it?
Never seen Risky Business.
Well, it was Old Time Rock and Roll by Bob Seger. It's the scene where he slides in the doorway. Just get those old records off.
Oh
the
yeah,
shelf.
I've seen the scene, but yeah, am I 4 for 8?
I think you are 4 for 8.
Okay.
What is the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time? And I'll give you a hint. It's recent and we've talked about it.
As in, we talked about it on
This episode.
This episode. Alright, so it's not Deadpool. No, I'm drawing a blank. I would have thought Deadpool.
No, it was Joker.
It's Joker, really?
Yeah.
Wow,
It's fantastic, that, isn't it?
that's amazing.
Like, I mean, it's such a good... The film is such a good character study
Yeah.
for, like, sort of like somebody descending into mental illness in a society that just doesn't care about them. But
Still-
I really don't know how it works as a Batman film.
No, I don't think it doesn't. That's the thing. I'm not a big fan of it. Is it because I reckon it has to be either a sort of precursor to another character that took on that sort of persona, or a copycat of an original Joker. To me, the Joker's like the Joker in that movie is too pathetic and too woe is me and too it's everyone else's fault.
Yeah.
You know, like the real Joker doesn't care about any of that.
No, I suppose not. But I suppose the interesting and wonderful thing about the character of the Joker is that because he has no concrete sort of origin story, you can do stuff like that with him.
Oh yeah, it can be anyone, but I think part of the thing I like the mystery of the Joker with no origin story, because there's nothing horrific enough. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing horrible enough to turn somebody into that.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just, it has to be a mystery, because I think it would be too.
Nothing could ever live up to it.
No, that's
exactly.
It. Like,
yeah.
I think it would ruin it. Because you have to have that sort of wow, like something really, like, really horrible must happen to this guy for him to snap like that, And I don't think it would have been, like, I don't think it would have been just getting bullied by people and getting thrown around and booed off stage as a comedian.
Believing that Batman's your brother.
Yeah, like all the complicated family situation that he goes through. I don't think any of that is enough. I think it has to be something brutally traumatic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, let's have another question then.
Yeah, go on, because I'm 4 for 10.
4 for 8.
Am I 4 for 8?
Yeah, we got. Was that 9?
No, that was 10.
That was 10.
That was 10.
Right. Okay.
I'm 4 for 10.
Right. Okay then. So, who was the only person to receive an Oscar nomination for acting in Star Wars?
Alec Guinness?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did the shitty impression not help you?
I don't know why I thought Ewan McGregor off the top of my head.
Hello there.
Hello there.
General Kenobi.
I hate it when he does that. I'm looking forward to the TV series.
Yeah, it's going to be.
I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be good.
It is going to be
good.
absolutely brilliant. I can't wait to see him come back. What prominent American director won the Oscar for helming Forrest Gump?
Robert Zemeckis.
It is indeed. Yeah. 3 Jim Carrey blockbusters, The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, and Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, were all released in what year?
1994.
Indeed.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Total stab in the dark, right? Hang on. What am I?
6 for 12?
6 for 13.
6 for 13. In what James Bond thriller does the famous spy fall in love and marry the girl?
On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
There you go.
7 for 14. I'm back to halfway.
What 1970 movie, sorry,
I was going to say.
Marked the feature debut of Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Oh. 1970.
1970. It's atrociously bad, if that helps.
What? Oh, God, what's it called? It was voiced by somebody else.
Yeah.
Oh no! Oh, come on, Phil, you can do this. Yeah, he was voiced by someone with a really weird accent, wasn't he? What was it called?
Hercules in New York.
Hercules in New York. Can I have half a point for the weird accent thing?
Go on.
Alright, so I'm 7.5 for 15.
Right, should we make this one the last question?
Yeah, go on. It's sort of a tiebreaker.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to have half a point for that.
Yeah, you should have half a point for that.
It's a fair thing. I have seen it at some point.
Do you know what you'll have to do the next episode? You'll have to test me.
Yeah. No, we're doing this a lot. I'm enjoying it.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay. So I've got a bank of 100 questions here, and what I'm trying not to do is be an absolute twat to Phil. But I'm also trying not to go like, who directed Batman in 1989? Don't know where that voice came from, but
standard Yorkshire pub quiz voice.
Yeah.
Who directed Jurassic Park?
Aye. Who directed Jurassic Park? You can have a point if you can cry.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. You've got to be able to cry on cue.
Folks, he's not crying, he can't have the point.
Well, question 16, is it?
Yeah, question 16. Can I get a drum roll, please? The stage play Everybody Comes to Rick's was adapted to the screen and became what 1942 Best Picture winner?
I have no idea. I'm sorry, I genuinely don't know.
Casablanca.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. I wouldn't have known. Sorry, I wouldn't have known.
Fair enough. Who wrote then? Right, here's another one for you to redeem yourself.
Right, 17's a weird number. Should we go to 20? Yeah, let's go to 20.
Guys, this is the completely random quiz. We hope we're feeling this on the fly. Who wrote the famous scary theme music from Halloween?
Wasn't Mike Oldfield because he was Tubular Bells. I can play it. It's in 5/4. It's weird. If I can play it on the guitar right now, can I have half a point?
Go on, but I'll give you a hint. Who wrote it? Who directed it?
I don't know who directed it.
You don't know who directed Halloween? No.
It's alright.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to Amateur Hour here at Batley Radio. And that is Phil Graham with the 12-bar blues.
I can actually play guitar quite well usually, but...
only when nobody's watching.
Yeah.
So the answer was John Carpenter.
Oh, man. God. I'm not a big horror fan, so I don't know. But I got half a point, so I said
I just figured you'd know that because on your SoundCloud there is a cover of you doing that song.
Well, it's mixed with the theme tune from Mortal Kombat and the theme tune from The Exorcist.
How many?
It's 3 different time signatures, so I thought it would be fun.
Yeah. How many suns does the planet of Tatooine have?
2.
And no women.
2 sons and no women. What am I supposed to do? I better go and bullseye some warm brats in my T16.
You know, that's like the start of being a serial killer.
Right, so I'm 8. I was 7.5 from 8. 9. I'm 9 for 18.
9 for 18.
I'm back in the halfway.
Back in the halfway. So, we'll give you an easy one, and we'll give you the tricky one. I'll give you the tricky one first.
Okay.
So, when adjusted for inflation, what is the highest grossing movie of all time? So when adjusted for inflation.
So presumably meaning that it has to be adjusted for inflation.
Yes. So think classic, epic, 4 hours long. Timothy Dalton was in a really weird sequel to it in the 90s called Scarlet.
It wasn't Dances with Wolves.
It wasn't Dances with Wolves, you are correct.
It's the only 4-hour movie I think of.
If I told you, Phil, frankly, you couldn't give a damn.
It is Casablanca, isn't it?
No.
It's not Casablanca. I don't know. I have no idea.
Gone with the Wind.
It's Gone with the Wind. Damn.
Okay.
Damn.
And then question 20. Let's see if we can go 10 for 20.
9 for 19.
So, question number 20. Who played Detective Rick Deckard in Blade Runner?
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford.
I'm 10 for 20.
Absolutely.
That's not bad. It's not amazing, but it's not bad. It's better than my Oscar predictions.
I suppose it is.
8 for 23.
Absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and Phil, next time... I don't know.
Has to do it.
I do. I have to wind you up however I can.
I'm going to find more movies that I know about that JT doesn't know about, and we'll do this next time. We'll do the quiz next time.
I only knew the answers to some of those because I actually didn't know all the answers to all of those. But I'm reading from a quiz, and I didn't write the quiz.
No, that's fair. Yeah, I'm going to write mine. I'm gonna make the effort right.
So Phil's going to write his quiz. Now you are going to come in and go right. Okay, well in the German expressionist film from 1920,
Max Schreck played who in what?
It would be Nosferatu, wouldn't it? In Nosferatu. Yeah. Christopher Walken
played.
What are you doing here?
So we'll see in a couple of weeks. We're going to be talking about Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Indeed,
It's going to be our 10th episode, so it might be a little bit longer. We'll do something special for it.
Absolutely. And yeah, thank you so much for all the support you've given us of late. We appreciate, like I say, that it's been a bit hectic of late and we've not really kept up to our release schedule. So thank you to everybody that's written to us or left a comment or sent a text, asking where we are. It's really great to know that we've been missed.
Yeah, it is. Cheers for that.
And we're gonna aim to do better and keep up to that. And I really can't wait to delve into talking about indie next time. That's going to be
fun.
a really fun discussion. And I've had a laugh doing just a bit of a random quiz at the end of this as well.
Yeah.
So Phil, that's your score. So you need to write me a 20-question quiz. Then should we say for next time?
Yeah.
And then we'll. I don't know, we'll do like a champion of champions or something.
If we get the same, we'll do a tiebreak.
Do some sort of a tiebreaker, absolutely. But thank you so much for listening as always. Take care.
Remain indoors and have a pleasant apocalypse.